I've had to wait for so long. Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by my husband and two of my friends, and we are going to be continuing our discussion for the Apothecary Diaries light novels. Today, specifically, is light novels 9 through 12. If you're interested in seeing 1 through 4 and 5 through 8, I'll have those linked. This will be completely spoiler filled, so if you don't want spoilers, definitely don't watch this. But we're just going to jump straight into it. This was my favorite arc. But I want to know for everyone else in the group, how do these 4 light novels compare to the first 8 for all of you?
I think that they're also my favorite 4. Definitely like it more than was it 5, 6, 7, and 8. I just liked the characters, the new characters. I'm Miss Chui's actual number 1 fan.
No, you're not.
In there first. And Lahan's brother. Big fan of Lahan's brother. Such a stupid name for a character. The Duck is fantastic. The Quack Doctor, he's been great the entire time. So I liked these quite a bit. Liked them a lot.
What about for you, Sarah?
For me, it's kind of hard to like pick between this 4 and the first 4 because like those feel nostalgic to me already. Like, especially because like I've watched and read that particular part so much. And like that's where everything started. But I really loved this section. Like a lot. I thought it was a lot funnier than the like middle 4. Because those ones, I mean, they were still funny, but I feel like there's just so much more humor in these ones. But then there's also so much other stuff happening with the world. So I don't know. I feel like it had everything that I love about the series, but like turned up all the way up. So
I agree with that.
These 4 are probably my favorite.
Christy, are you the oddball out or are you in agreement?
First of all, I'm Miss Chui's number 1 fan. Definitely agree that the new characters introduced in these 4 are incredible. They're probably like my favorite side characters now out of all of the ones that have been introduced. So yeah, I really like these 4 as well. And I think just like everything got so much bigger. The stakes were so high and everything was so intense. I really liked like pretty much all the plot points that this one touched on, because there were like hints to stuff in the previous volumes. And this is where kind of everything kind of came to a head, like the whole locust swarm. That was like just so intense. So yeah, then there were especially moments in the last volume where I was like, I don't know if some people are gonna make it. You know, it was just I was on the edge of my seat for a lot of this.
And that's something I don't feel that the series has necessarily been that frequently, because so much of it is intrigue, so much of it is character development, mystery feels, and a lot of it feels like mystery of the week, and then it turns out to be a bigger arc than what you were expecting before, and you start to realize how a lot of it's connected. But I agree that this time around, there were a number of instances where I felt that edge of your seat feeling, but it's not that it replaced the intrigue, because there was definitely a lot of that too, but it just felt like the stakes were higher. I think this is in part because this arc for me had, I think, possibly the best villain, we'll call them, of the series, the best antagonist. And something that I think entire arcs of Apothecary Diaries have in common is that a lot of times the antagonists are kind of behind the scenes, and you don't really know who they even are sometimes, or what their plots are. And sometimes they can even seem like they're an ally, and then it turns out they're not. You don't really know, though, their motivations for a lot of it. And this time around, I felt like we had that, but then once the person showed themselves, it felt even worse, because then it felt like, oh, now they have the confidence, which is a bad sign for the rest of them. In, I would say, the end of volume 4, I don't know if everybody agrees with this, but I definitely felt like when we had that clan, it was almost we need to go up against them, but we're gonna defeat them. We were, I think, fearful for Mau Mau. We weren't sure exactly what was gonna happen, but I think it was more of like, now they're in trouble because they exposed themselves too soon. They're not clever enough for this. And then everything with Xiao and the White Lady, I think, was such a mystery, and it seemed like almost there were personal motivations, but it didn't seem as grand and politically big. And in this one, I genuinely was wondering if our antagonist was going to be here for a long time. I didn't know how the characters were going to get out of it. So I'm curious how all of you felt about that. We'll go in reverse. So Christy, what did you think about all of that?
So during our sprint, I remember Sean was like, "Ooh, they're in quite a pickle now," and you're like, "Yeah." When I was reading that, I didn't know if there was gonna. I don't know. I don't remember your exact wording, but it's like, I don't know if this is gonna be the big, overarching plot that takes over everything. And then Sean was like, "Oh, well, now I know that it's not gonna be."
Yeah.
So, I had that thought in mind the whole when I was reading it. But even I also had the feeling, I was like, is this going to be a bigger thing now? Like, is this going to be the main arc that we're going to focus on for the majority of the series? Kind of a little disappointed that it wasn't. It got resolved pretty easily, I feel like. I think I would have liked to see it become an even bigger thing. Yeah, I feel like he could have been so much worse, and it would have. And I don't know. I just feel like the potential was squandered a little bit there.
So so overall, you would say you were kind of disappointed that we didn't get to have this last for longer, but do you feel like it was balanced out a little bit by sort of the shock of how everything transpired with that character?
Oh yeah, that was a plot twist I did not see coming.
Yeah. It's hard because I do agree with you where I also was like, I genuinely don't know what they're gonna do. It feels like they have no other choice but to follow along and sadly go to war for something that's absolutely ridiculous and they shouldn't go to war over. And I do think it kind of wrapped up a little clean. And as kind of, I'm not serious about this, but it almost comes across like if one person's just willing to take someone out, then sometimes problems can be solved. That was kind of how it went down. But I was so shocked by that because I do feel like there were hints along the way that as we talked privately when we weren't getting into everything in depth, I would love to go back and reread to see just how much all of this has been embedded into it from the beginning. But I don't disagree that it was borderline kind of like, oh, I guess that's over now. I think that was true for sure. Sarah, what about for you? How did you feel about the villain and antagonist in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely shocked that it ended so like suddenly. Like when I was reading that scene, I was like, is this actually what's happening right now? Like I just couldn't believe it. Like, and I do think like there was potential, especially the scene where like that like angry mob comes out and like you can kind of see like I don't even know how to say his name actually, so I'm just gonna continue referring to him as he. But you can see
Sean
I call him
Dash. Yeah. Because there's a dash in his name.
I would say Gyoku-o. Gyoku-o. So not Gyoku-yo, but Gyoku-o. You can just call him O. I think. Like, yeah.
Anyway, the scene where he's like out in like Jinchi's also out there trying to like take control of the situation, but you can really see like how he can manipulate a situation. I thought that would have been really cool to see that going forward. And like this is something that none of our characters really like know how to deal with. So I think it could have been cool to see that going forward. Like if he became like a bigger part of the rest of the story. But I do think that at least where we left off in volume 12, the kind of like after effects of like what he did kind of are still playing into some of the things that are happening like throughout this world. So I think his impact is still going to be seen.
Yeah, it's similar to at the end of the fourth volume that some of the impacts of that were still leading into later issues, and on not just a broad scale but even personal things, like you have certain characters who can basically never show their faces again because they have to stay in hiding and things like that. So you kind of do feel it. And one thing I like about this series is it never feels like it forgets the previous arcs, because that's one thing I think some stories suffer from is once you close the door on something, it's like, oh, that happened. And then the characters might as well have never experienced that because they never reference it. It doesn't seem to impact them or affect the world, like you were saying. And I think this series is good about having those after effects occur. Sean, what about for you?
I think I'm just going to end up echoing other sentiments, but I also kind of was a little bummed that he died because I was like, wait, we're going to go to war? It's going to be a big old war that they can't get out of because he's a fast talking son of a gun. I was pretty excited. But then he died. Well, he got murdered. So that was it was surprising. But on the flip side, I'm also not upset that at the end of 12 we're finally going back to the original place where all the characters from the capital. You know, I think I'm Western capitaled out for now. I'm a little bummed. You know, we'll get this later. Lahan's brother is stuck there. That is terrible. One of the best characters after Miss Chue is stuck there. But anyways, yeah, I was surprised, and it did kind of just, you know, they're like, well, he's dead then, I guess. It worked out, you know, like it was kind of odd. But
and everyone was like also just okay with it.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, you killed the assassin who killed him. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, all right.
Well, no one officially knows it was Riku-san, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's kind of like, I don't know what happened because they think it was the other.
I think Lacan
knows.
Yeah, but he just was like, okay, just roll with
it. Yeah. I don't know if I expect him to suddenly be the one with the high morals deciding like this was not okay. I did like that. I feel like Chue also is kind of like, I mean, she was there when he came out.
Oh yeah, she knows.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think there. Well, that's another thing that's interesting too. Is after you learn more about Chue in Volume 12, there is also the question of like, would Chue have found a way to take care of him if Riku-san hadn't? I do think it's kind of funny because after our previous discussion, some of the talking points that we had are. Let's start with this one. We had, do you think we're done with the West and or Shao? And it's like, we were not at all. And it's kind of interesting how it dominated this and it wasn't even clear whether we were going to come back to it. And then also, what do you imagine is transpiring with Lady Gyokyo and her brother? So the fact that we actually got to see this happen is pretty fun. And it just goes to show how much foreshadowing was taking place earlier, because I think while this feels like the climactic moment, it feels almost like an arc in and of itself within these 4 volumes. At the same time, kind of what you were saying too, Christy, where everything was coming to a head with the grasshoppers, that's been hinted at since 5. So we've had so many little things. And then when you actually go back and you start to pick apart some of what's happened with Riku-san and Lady Gyokyo's ladies in waiting and things like that, you start to realize some of this has been planned out. Or even when they went to the Western capital the first time and Gyokyo, and you're like, I feel like he's very friendly, but I don't know if we can trust him. And there was a lot going on. So I'm curious now how the foreshadowing affected this arc for you, because I think we're all a little bummed that Gyokyo is not the antagonist anymore because he was such a threat, but at the same time it was kind of satisfying to feel almost like we were duped, and that I think a lot of us had that feeling like that Sarah described of like, wait, oh my gosh, is this actually happening? So I'm curious how all of you felt. And Sarah, if you want to start with the foreshadowing idea here.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I picked up on more of it. Like a lot of the foreshadowing I like realized like after the fact, but there was like even the fact that the 3 like ladies in waiting, the 3 sisters, I was like there should have been something that like tipped me off about them. And then when we like realized later who they are, I was like, oh my god, like how did I not like suspect anything? Like just things like that. So
I do want to give you some credit. I feel like there was some suspicion. I think a lot of us continuously were like, I feel like there's something with Lady Gyokyo, but we didn't know what. Yeah.
But like, especially those 3. I feel like the main lady in waiting, I can't remember her name. I feel like there was like a lot of suspicion on her, but then I don't.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. But then I don't think at least as far as I read, I don't think she was brought up at all in terms of like all of this. But yeah, it really does make me want to go back and reread it and like find all this foreshadowing. And I love foreshadowing, so it just made it so exciting to like figure things out as I'm reading and just remember back to like everything that had happened before.
I think too, though, even though you're saying, "Oh, I wish I'd picked up on it more," I think that's almost the best kind of foreshadowing is when you
Yeah.
see it in hindsight. Because when it's too obvious, then it kind of ruins the suspense, it ruins the reveals. But in this instance, it was like she was laying a lot of stuff out for us, but how it all connected, I think, were completely clueless to until it actually transpired. I mean, even going back and seeing that those ladies in waiting, that their names mean feather. And you're just like, the hints that were there. And in fact, Christy, you were talking about when Sean was like, is this a spoiler? Saying you were, that whole thing. When you were saying that Chue's name was Sparrow, right? I was just like, but that if I had said that might be spoilery, that I would have ruined some things. I was like, I just have to keep this to myself. Sean, were you going to chime in there?
Well, didn't they say that her name is Pharaoh? Or am I misremembering?
I think they do call her that too, but I was just like, just because I knew the other ladies in waiting after the fact knew that their names were Feather, that I was like, oh, I feel like there's some connecting of the bird aspects of things. So I was just like, oh no, don't bring that up. Except for it's one of those instances where when people sometimes say like that's a spoiler, and they'll say that to things that you're like, it's only a spoiler if you say it's a spoiler. Otherwise, people don't know that it's a spoiler. I think as bookworms, we kind of can all relate to that. But yeah, the foreshadowing, there's just so many little things that I think will be really great to eventually go back and reread. An excuse for me to go back and reread all of these. And maybe, Sarah, you will feel more towards this one also in the fact that you were saying there's this sense of, oh, but the others I have this nostalgia almost for. And maybe when you reread this one, you'll feel that way too, because you'll have read it multiple times. Sean, what about for you? How was the foreshadowing? Because I know you're not the biggest, I'm going to try to predict or guess person.
I also don't remember anything. My memory is terrible. So I remember locusts, potatoes. So those two things really came to fruition. Locusts and potatoes. It would have been weird if there weren't locusts, like if they had been building up all this, like there's going to be a swarm. We really should prepare for the swarm. And if there wasn't, that'd be kind of funny. But obviously there was big swarm. And Lahan made a killing on potatoes. I mean, like the he's a smart guy. He got into the potato business early. He had his brother go plant potatoes. It's a good business, thriving business.
Lahan's brother, who is definitely not a farmer.
Definitely not a farmer.
Yeah,
not at all. That's all I got. Potatoes and locusts. That's what I remember from the other ones.
So you definitely were very surprised at a lot of things.
Well, I guess like not that like it wasn't, I'll put it this way. The ladies in waiting for our current empress, having known her way back in the day, like grown up with her, was like a nice detail, but I don't know if I felt like I was like, oh, it all makes sense. Like I just was like, oh, I guess they've known each other for a long time. I don't know. It was a nice connecting thing, but I don't know if I thought that was like foreshadowed necessarily. I guess she clearly knew them, right? From, I think they even say like they're from her, hometown, or, from wherever she was from. So I guess I wasn't like, oh man, I was just like, oh, that's nice. That makes sense.
I do think there's that part where, and all of us were kind of like, what was the point of that? Where Gyokyo, it was unclear if she was being silly or if she was trying to test Mao Mao or bring Mao Mao back when she did that whole dropping the salt into the drink. And the one lady in waiting in particular seemed very adamant, like, you need to be careful. You need to, like, she was really kind of hounding Lady Gyokyo, which seemed odd. And she seemed like she was trying to get Hanyang out of the way to converse with Gyokyo, and you're like, why is she so adamant right now about all of this? And I think that it kind of just shows how much certain characters maybe knew each other and we didn't realize, to use your phrase, the connective tissue kind of feeling of, oh, this is more together than we were realizing.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Saying that they're from the same part of the world doesn't mean that they're from the same like literal family. That is different. So you're correct. I was like, oh, cool, they're friends. How nice.
I think
How nice.
Christy had a reaction though to finding the ladies in waiting were more connected to Riku-san and the Wind Readers and the history of all of that.
Like, we knew that they were childhood friends, but I never would have thought that they were part of the Yi clan and they were related to Riku-san. Like, that was insane. In terms of foreshadowing, there was like a lot of talk before about why Gyokyo has so few ladies in waiting. I never really knew what was up with that. I thought, oh, she's just super discerning about who she has around her. But to find out that it was all the doing of her brother, that answered a lot of those kinds of questions. And yeah, I just feel like even the foreshadowing was there with, like, their names and saying that they're childhood friends, but I don't know how anyone could have predicted, like, even from the foreshadowing, that they're from the Yi clan. I will say though, for Riku-san, I think we all thought, like, there's something up with this guy. He has a bigger part to play. And when Gyokuen was like, oh, since I'm here, we need someone to send over to help my son run the Western capital, and he specifically chose Riku-san. I'm like, that's weird. That's suspicious. How does he even know who he is?
I'm just learning that I don't pick up on these things, because I was like, let the guy go. If he wants to go, he can go.
I thought
he remembers faces. He's good at this.
He's really smart.
I thought they were going to be in cahoots with each other. Like, he and Gyokuo were going to be in cahoots trying to take over the capital or something. But to learn that he was actually sent to be kind of like an assassin in worst case scenarios by the man's own father, I was like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty bad when your own dad is like, just in case my son goes off the deep end, you know what to do. Like, that's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, and I don't know if there were any hints to. This is like why I want to also go back and reread some things. I was like, is there any hint that could suggest that Riku-san is related to the Yi clan?
Yeah, I want to see all of that too. I was trying to get this here. There we go. Let's see him there. What in the world happened here? Yeah, I mean, Riku-san launched up for me as being one of my favorite characters in this, just because he has such a quietly sad and tragic story, and you just don't. He keeps it all hidden. I think there was something really oddly tragic also about when he does take him out, that Gyokyo has no idea who he is, and there's this realization that this person has kind of consumed Riku-san's basically every thought since he was a child, because he ruined his life, and this guy has no idea who he even is. That I thought was really sad, and also just kind of speaks to, I think, a lot of the antagonists in this series, and something that the series does well is it shows how the impacts of one person can have such a ripple effect and huge consequences, whether they're aware of it or not. Because I think a lot of times we're so used to there being this kind of personal connection between our protagonist and our antagonist. So to see it like this, I think was a really interesting angle to approach it from. And also, just to kind of go back to the foreshadowing and everything, Riku-san pretty much tells, I mean, he doesn't say literally like, it was Gyokyo, by the way, but when he tells Mao Mao that he's like, oh yeah, they came and slaughtered my family, and she was like, oh, and she was really surprised because he just kind of offered that information up seemingly out of nowhere. And I this is why I felt stupid, because when he said that, I didn't connect it to anything else. I was just like, wow, that's sad. That's all I thought. I was like, what a sad backstory. And I didn't think that maybe it would be related and maybe there's a reason. I was with you where I was wondering if he is somehow an agent for the other side. And he kind of is, but not in the way that I think any of us were anticipating. I think we thought he was going to become a threat to our characters. The only character that seems to see him as any kind of threat is Jinshi, and not for the reasons that the rest of us would consider him to possibly be a threat.
Can I just say, I'm so sorry. I already need a recap. So Rikusen, the reason his family died was there was like a rumor that he was like an imperial bastard base, like could be have like a claim to the throne, right? And then that information was out there. They went and like killed all the Yi clan. Is that what it was?
All the men, I think.
Yeah.
Any of the men and boys, because his sister pretended to be him. And I think
Right.
it was that. And if I'm not mistaken, because you all just finished, so it's more recent for you. But isn't Gyokyun even felt partially responsible for this? Because I think there was some political advantage to having this rumor exist at the time, not realizing that Gyokyo would take it so personally and see it as his responsibility to eliminate this. So I think that's why he feels so responsible for Rikusen. And also I think it made him aware of just how much he does not have Gyokyo held in check whatsoever. But again, you three have it a little probably fresher in your head if you want to clarify for Sean here.
Was the reason that Gyokyo like acted on this and kind of made it a bigger deal, was it from what I remember, it was because the Yi clan had the like family ledger or whatever that said that he wasn't actually his son, so he wanted to like basically cover that up as much as he could.
Yeah. And also other plot twists that none of Gyokyun's children are his. He's actually just kind of a nice fella that takes in a bunch of widows and their children.
And then the guy that Dash kills in that scene right before he dies was his
actual brother.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All in.
So many things to keep
and
track
even
of.
kind of even going off of the idea of the antagonists and the ripple effects and everything, a lot of what consumed him and what fed his hatred was something terrible that happened to his own mother. So it kind of goes to show the direction people can take when they've been wronged. I mean, I feel like we saw that with I feel kind of bad because I keep going back to the first main arc and not the middle because it's not quite the same, I would say. But in the first arc, you see the ripple effects of what the Emperor did and how that led certain people to be so consumed with that they then took actions that ended up going up against our characters. And I think that we see this again here. But in his, I mean, obviously the Emperor, the previous Emperor, was disgusting and terrible, but he's dead. So you're looking at the impacts of him after the fact. But to have somebody right there in front of you and the way that they can manipulate the masses and they can have this charisma, and you're like, how do we combat this? And he outsmarted them. Like the way he consistently paid people, whether they were delivering or not, on the crops and everything, just to seem like this, because he knew everything about the locusts or the grasshoppers, and he'd been warned, and he kind of just used that to his advantage to throw Jinshi under the bus so that he could then get all of the glory after the fact and everything. It was, I think he was a very good adversary for them. And it was kind of surprising that it was behind the scenes things that took him out. Chrissy, did you have more to add too with all of the Rikusen and the behind the scenes of everything that was happening with this character?
I think we covered pretty much.
We covered him pretty well. So there were a number of different characters that got to shine besides just Rikusen in this whole arc. And I think it's kind of difficult to pick a favorite. I see a lot of fighting over who is Miss Chue's number one fan. So let's talk about the side characters, but we'll talk about Chue first. So because Sarah declared herself very formally as the #1 fan, Sarah, tell us why you
But I
loved Miss
said it
Chue
first.
so much.
I just think that she is so fun, and like just everything about her is just such a trip. I feel like it's just like so over the top. And then getting to like find out her backstory, I was like, this is so sad. Like, oh my god. And specifically that picture with Mao Mao, I was like, if she dies, I will die. Like,
I was gonna quit. I was gonna stop reading. Like, nope, no more. There's no point in reading anymore.
and just like also seeing her relationship with her husband, I don't know how to say his name either. Just, I love it. But then there's also a part of me that is like, is everything that we've seen from her so far, is that still just an act? Like, do we know the true Chue yet? And I don't think that we do, but I love her either way.
Her backstory was really sad. 2 back-to-back backstory volumes, and they're both tragic. And that's one thing I think that this arc had over the previous ones, because I think Lulan, her backstory was also very sad, but it's somewhat, once you realize who she is, you can kind of figure that out almost on your own. You can kind of piece it together. These ones, though, it was so shocking to see just how much they've gone through. And one of the characters, Riko-san, being very quiet and reserved and kind of charming, and then Chue just being this delight with her little confetti all the time and her little signs and flags and things like that. And to have the almost court jester type character have one of the most tragic backstories, I just felt so bad for her. And I'm curious, Sarah, you had a theory while you're reading, but you said it might get resolved or told to us in volume 12. Was that related to Chue?
Yeah, because there was one line that was like, I think I might have highlighted it, but maybe I got rid of it. I think I got rid of it. But it was like Mao Mao thinking like, oh, like, how does she know all this stuff? Like, just being like, oh, like, that's kind of weird that she knows that. But then, of course, as Mao Mao does, she just was like, okay, whatever. Like,
Tucks it
doesn't
away
matter.
for later.
Yes. And then there's also when Chue is talking about how spies will have like whole families so that they can blend in. And then Mao Mao was like, huh.
There's also the part with those with the people that came after them, the bandits, and Chue seemed like she knew, and you're like, did she set these people up somehow? Or
I think like in terms of foreshadowing that even Sean can understand, something was up with Miss Chue. Was there for a while. Like there's always like she's just a little too competent, and you're like, yeah, I think she is a little too competent. There's something there. Even Sean was like, I don't know.
And I love how whenever Mama was like, what's up with this? And then Miss Chue is like, don't you worry your pretty little head, Miss Mama.
I also love the amount of times when it's kind of more when they were first interacting with each other that Mao Mao's like, I really got to step up the weird, basically, because, or when she'd be like, why is no one around to comment on this? It's almost like sensory overload for her because Chue is just so over the top. And there was a part of me that was almost surprised at first at their friendship, because I don't know that Chue came across like somebody that Mao Mao would get so close to, but when I thought about it, I think Mao Mao appreciates hardworking people and competent people and people that are very authentically themselves, which interestingly, I think Chue is very genuine in how she acts as far as her personality. She definitely keeps secrets or she has information, but I don't think that it registers for Mao Mao, at least, as she is trying to deceive everyone constantly. I don't think that is necessarily.
I don't know, man. She's a super secret spy.
I know
rode
she
along
has
with them as a humble bodyguard for a little bit, and they never knew.
I know. I just think there's a difference between I'm trying to trick you, the way that, you know, Jinshi would put on this persona that Mao Mao found very grating. I think Chue is very kind of kind, and I don't think that the kindness is fake, if that makes sense. I think that the kindness is genuine, and I think the competence is something that Mao Mao appreciates, because I think Mao Mao is somebody who keeps a lot of information to herself also. So I think that in that way they kind of go together. And I think there is something to sometimes the concept of opposites attract with friendships as well, because Mao Mao is so reserved and Chue is not. And I think that there's something that she appreciates in that a little bit. Not that she necessarily wants to be just like that, but I think there is this enjoyment of a person that can be like that. I also think Mao Mao just also likes people that can be kind in the face of adversity, because we saw that with her friend at the beginning, who was kind of like a little sister to her. So I think she appreciates characters like that too. But I don't disagree that Chue is obviously holding to a lot of secrets and information, and that we don't know that we have all of Chue just yet. But I don't know if I think that's the same as Chue trying to purposefully lead people to think she's a different personality than she actually has. But I'm free to, hear everybody else's thoughts. Everybody's a big fan of Chue. So I think it's just going to turn into us talking about her more. But Sean, you can elaborate more on your thoughts with Chue as well.
About not knowing who she really is.
And just why you love her, since you were debating with Sarah about being her number one fan.
Yeah, so I guess the first part. I mean, there's even like I think Mao Mao, I think it's Mao Mao, even thinks something like maybe having this really big personality makes it easier to, disguise yourself as a nobody when you need to, because nobody's gonna like, you're so loud and doing all of your strange sleight of hand things that when you're just a normal person. So anyways, it might be an act, but I get what you're saying about the kindness shining through. But as far as Miss Chue being the best, and I'm her number one fan, she's just funny in every scene. So there was this is some inside baseball here. Elle obviously read this way before us, and she's like, I don't know, there's this character that I'm not sure you're gonna like. She's kind of a lot. And I was like, oh boy, I'm dreading, whoever this character is. And I was like, wait, are you talking about Miss Chue? Because Miss Chue is the best character in the series. I don't know what you're talking about, that she's a lot. She wears her heart on her sleeve. And even though I just said she's a spy and could be deceiving all of us, she's great and nice. And I like all of her flags and her confetti. And she's the best. She's the best character.
I'm glad that you like her. I wasn't saying I'm pretty sure you're not going to. I was just worried because sometimes characterful types, as Mao Mao would put it, are not always Sean's favorite.
I mean, it does get weird. I mean, you do have her and her husband who hides behind a screen
or in baskets.
The basket thing was weird.
What was the basket thing?
She carries him on her back in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, all of that is weird, and you kind of just have to go with it. I will read one short Miss Chue moment that I found very funny. I don't even remember the context of this. They're offering apologies. It says, I can only offer my humblest apologies, Mao Mao said. She and the others had their heads pressed to the ground in abject apology, and Chue was even dressed in a white robe as if prepared to disembowel herself at any moment. And then Jinshi says, there will be no need for that.
And then that part also says that she jumps up and changes, but in my brain it's she just jumps into the air and does a magical spin and lands back in a new outfit.
It'd be funny if when this is adapted eventually, hopefully in the anime, if they did a Sailor Moon style transformation. That'd be pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, she's just such a character, and she's very endearing and kind of a lot, but in a fun way. And I just love how much Mao Mao was always taken aback by her. Christy, you have not had the opportunity to have your case made for why you are actually Miss Chue's number one fan.
I am Miss Chu's #1 fan. And it's ironic that you say, like, oh, Mama likes hardworking people, because, like, in Mama's uh, POV, she's always like, she'll use any excuse to slack off or not do work. But she is hardworking. You know, this is all kind of part of her, like, not say facade, but just like, it's part of her work. Um, and speaking of Mao Mao and her friendship, I do feel like she brings Mao Mao out of her shell a little bit more, and because she'll call things out about Mao Mao that feel like other people kind of just like ignore. Like she'll be like, "I think you should be nicer to lock on," and meanwhile, everyone else is just kind of accepts it for what it is. But she kind of like, I don't know, she helps um propel Mao Mao's character development a little bit, because like she calls her out about lock on, and then in these volumes we kind of see Mao Mao kind of like hating lock on a little bit less. Like she at least acknowledges some of his not like not disgusting qualities. um and how the thing that she tells her about, oh, don't let your emotions get ahead of you, but also don't use it as an excuse. And then Mama constantly thinks about that whenever she's interacting with Jinshi, and I feel like that really helped develop Mama's relationship with Jinshi. What else? Oh yeah, and I love how so Chue like she interacts with the emperor, right? Like she tells him, like, because she's an interpreter, right? He uses her for her ability with languages, but then there were like some comments how she does her little tricks and entertainment in front of him too, like you said, like a court jester. I love that. That's so cute. And then when Mamo hears about this, she was like, "Oh, maybe I should incorporate some of my jokes when I talk to the emperor too." Um, I just love characters like her who, even though they've experienced so much tragedy and gone through so much pain, they can still present, a positive outlook and happy face to the world. Um, despite everything that they went through. And then her relationship with Barrio is so sweet. Like it's not the conventional kind of love story you think of, but I think they just work together so well. And yeah, there's still just even now with Chue, there's like hints of tragicness about like who she is as a person because of her relationship with her mom, and how that affects her relationship with her own children. Like she was like, "Oh, I don't want, like, I gave birth to this kid, I don't want it anymore, you can have it." Is it because she feels that she's afraid to have a bond with the kid because it will make her own lack of relationship with her mom more painful, or because of just the nature of what the kind of work that she does, if it's better to keep personal relationships at a distance? I don't know, I just find that really sad. That chapter made me cry.
That chapter was really gutting. I think the rest of the volume, it wasn't necessarily my favorite overall, but that part really brought it up. I agree completely that her and Barrio, I think, is that how you said his name? Their relationship is precious. I think because they accept each other so wholeheartedly and are very accommodating, and they're kind of, especially I think on her end, each other's greatest support systems, because a lot of people are like, he's weird and they don't quite get him, and she just figures out how to accommodate him so as to include him, instead of just being like, well, he's weird, let's exclude him, or he's weird, let's just, whatever. She finds ways to help him. And I think she tries to encourage him though as well. And with I think everything you said about her and her relationship to her mother and how that affects having her own child. I think for her, she wouldn't mind never having a child because of many of what the things she's gone through, but because of their world and this emphasis on, well, we need someone in this family to have a child. And I know obviously Boston's sister has a child as well, or a few, I think. But I think for her, she probably would have not minded not having a child. I think he also wouldn't have minded that too much, but they felt like they had to have this pressure to have a child. And so it just kind of shows the way that at the end of it all, even characters that are so full of life and seem like they're so competent, that even when they're in positions of power in some capacity, even they have to basically fall victim to the pressures of their society in some fashion. But I'm glad though, because I think there's a part of her that recognized, I want this child to have a good life. I don't know if I'm the person that can deliver that. And so there is this sort of understanding of, if I want them to be happy, it'd probably be best for them to be raised by her. She's a good mother. It is really tragic. Everything to do with that is really sad. I add one more thing, and I want to hear Sean's thoughts.
I really want to get something in.
Go ahead.
Important. It's just me distracting from a serious topic. So she's the one who introduced the screen as a form of communication. I really kind of wanted the screen to be involved in the physical act that led to their child. It's like kind of like you could make it work, but I don't think the screen was involved, but I really wanted it to be. Anyways, so that's my 2 cents.
Well, I'll chime in with another funny Chue thing is I think the first time I really was like, oh, I really like this character is when her and Mao Mao are testing the food. And she eats basically all of it. And then when the server comes to get it, she's like, go ahead, it's not poisoned. I greatly enjoyed that moment from her.
Interjecting with other funny Chue moment when Lakan was like trying to get Mamo to try all these foods, like Mamo, try this, Mamo, try that, and Chue keeps intercepting and taking it instead.
I have a Chue Lacan moment. It's when he just won't leave for some reason. It says he's like wrapped around a pole like a toddler. And Chue says, Miss Mao Mao, a word from you would be helpful here. Tell him, have fun or something. I don't want to, Miss Chue. Would you rather he stay here, Miss Mao Mao? Mao Mao scowled and managed to choke out, have fun in the quietest possible voice.
And then doesn't Lakan say like, thanks, Mama, I will have fun.
Yeah.
It's so sad. So do you think part of her wanting Mao Mao to have at least some kindness towards her father is because she can see like Mao Mao's own father wants to have a relationship with her, which is very different from what she experienced. So it's almost like a maybe don't take this for granted. I know that you have your reasons, but also he loves you and maybe you should try a little bit. Do you think that that's part of it possibly?
That's deep, man. I didn't think about that.
I didn't think about it either, but I like it.
I like that a lot,
yeah. I also feel like with Chue and just in general, like everything that she went through, it was just also so tragic to see someone who she loved her family, she loved her life, and then her father got so consumed with finding her mother that he basically then neglected her entirely. And I do wonder a little bit, because Mao Mao, even though she was raised by Loman and Loman was very kind and loving, we do know that there was a hint of neglect in Mao Mao's childhood. She talks about when she's with Jinchi on the other side of that wall, how she would just cry and cry and cry, and none of the women at the Verdegrees house could take the time to take care of her. So she kind of just learned to repress her feelings and emotions on things. And I wonder if there's a part of Chue that recognizes and sees herself, her younger self, in Mao Mao and wants Mao Mao to realize it's okay to emote. Basically, it's okay to, like she said, and you brought up, Christy, it's okay to have your emotions and not let yourself neglect them, but also maybe don't get so carried away. You can let yourself process and express. That's okay. Do you think that she sees some of herself in Mao Mao to some degree? What do you think, Christy? Because you're the one that brought up all of that stuff before.
I haven't thought about this, so I don't know if I have an answer. I'm not sure if she sees herself in Mao Mao because they're so different. Because one of her mission right now is whatever makes the Moon Prince happy, right? And she knows that Mao Mao makes him happy. Yeah. I don't know. And I guess it's also, I don't know. I don't know. Next person, please.
Well, I think that even if personality-wise they're not exactly the same, maybe recognizing a child of neglect is something that she sees and the effects of that. Maybe she can somehow identify that in Mao Mao to some degree because she has her own experiences with that too. Because she was so different. And I think her kind of court jester thing was a survival mechanism for her in the same way that I think Mao Mao has her own survival mechanisms and they manifest differently, but maybe some of what she sees in Mao Mao is a byproduct of that. I don't know, Sean and Sarah, do either of you have anything to add to that? Any theories? Not so much.
I hadn't thought about it, but I don't know if she's doing it or like is aware of it. Miss Chue is aware of it like intentionally, or if it's kind of just like her and Mao Mao kind of have this like connection that kind of brings them together without them really knowing it about each other. They can just kind of, they're fated to be friends.
Yeah.
I think you have to wonder how much Chue knows of Mao Mao's life. I mean, it's not like, I mean, she is a super secret spy who knows a lot of things, but it's not like they had a heart to heart where Mao Mao was like, this is what happened in my life, you know?
Right. I think, yeah, Sarah, I like your assessment that sometimes that almost unspoken connection that friends can have without even really recognizing why, it can be rooted in similar experiences, but it doesn't have to, as Sean put it, be something that is a discussed thing. They just sort of can sense it. I do want to add, because we're talking about characters seeing themselves in each other, two things. First off, the most annoying character, how do you say his name? Tianyu or something like that? The surgeon. So when they're talking about like, oh, if we hadn't taken him under our wing, he probably would have become a serial killer. And Mao Mao kind of is like, what would happen to me if I didn't have poisons, basically. So there was that. And then also one of my favorite scenes, and obviously it's funny and it's weird, but also really heartwarming, is when Mao Mao sees her father Loman in Jinshi, in this person who is constantly doing everything in an effort to make everybody else happy, even at the cost and detriment to his own health and well-being. And I think that possibly there's a lot to try to interpret from this scene. So it's not like this interpretation is, of course, the correct one. And I'm curious all of yours. But I think part of her reservations about feeling anything for Jinshi at all is that I think the only person she's ever allowed herself to really, really feel strong love for and almost more open adoration and love for is Loman. And it's difficult because he doesn't take care of himself. And I think that it's very painful for her to see him consistently being mistreated or on the basically edge of starvation at times, not having food, being mistreated by other people around him on a day-to-day basis too, not even just the things that he experienced from the court politics and everything. And I think there's a part of her that doesn't want to have to watch someone she cares about do that again because it's painful for her as well. So I think that moment kind of really showcased, because we've had conversations about, is Mao Mao an unreliable narrator, and almost I feel bad using this word because it gets overused online, but almost like the problematic angle of asking that question in relation to how she feels about Jinshi, because it almost comes across like, no, she wants this, or no, she's just, there's all those things that we discussed in the previous discussion. But I do think there's this like, well, it feels like she does consistently find herself always wanting to assist in some way, or she keeps inserting herself at times into what he's doing or what he's going through, when she doesn't tend to do that with anyone else. She tends to pretty much find any way to get out of anything she can. And with him, she's starting to go from that to always finding a way to be involved. And in this arc in particular, I think he offers like, you can go. And she's like, no, I'll stay. There's a lot of times where she inserts herself to help him in some fashion. So I'm just curious if you feel like that was the interpretation you got from that scene, or if there's other things you wanted to add or a different angle.
Christy, what did you take from that scene? What was your favorite part?
All right, let's not go into that.
You do love a pathetic husbando, so
I remember when we were talking before I read this scene, you were like, you referenced something. You're like, oh, there's something that happens that makes Jinshi even more pathetic and a loser, and I think you'll really like it. Like, do you remember that? Were you talking about this scene?
yeah, of course, where he's like, please slap me again.
Yeah, other side, please.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
when he said other side, please, I thought he just wanted her to like kiss his other cheek. I didn't think he wanted her to slap him. And then I was like, oh wait, it would make more sense if he wanted her to slap him.
But
Anyway, okay, Sean is derailing us. I'm asking a serious question. This beautiful interpretation of this moment. And Sean's like, but Christy, we know you love. Okay, but actually though, I mean, you can of course elaborate on that aspect too, and we can because it's funny and it's very Jinshi. But also, what are your thoughts on the potential interpretation of Mao Mao seeing Loman in Jinshi?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a very sweet scene. And we've talked before about Mao Mao potentially being an unreliable narrator, and I don't know if I saw that so much before, but I think as the volumes went on, we see her kind of starting to develop some kind of feelings for Jinshi, although in her narrations she's still like, oh, I wish he would just go away. But you know, her actions and her thoughts sometimes don't coincide. And I think in these volumes is when we finally kind of have explicit acknowledgement from Mao Mao of what she feels for Jinshi. So I'm like, finally, we get some kind of development, because that was my gripe with volumes 5 to 8, was like there was there were some, but like weird developments. I'm like, I don't know where this is going. And then there were also a lot of acknowledgments from her about how hard Jinshi works. Like when she was like, oh, she wants this to be over with because Jinshi has his hands full already. And I think, yeah, I think that's a good interpretation about her being hesitant because she worries about him kind of working himself to death, like her father. I was just happy to finally see them have some kind of development in their relationship and showing that she actually does care about him.
Yeah, I think even though they don't actually interact that much in these volumes, when they do, I feel like they had more meaningful moments. There's a lot of moments that happen between 5 and 8, some of which are, of course, very uncomfortable at the very least, and some of them are sweet. That scene that happens where she takes the makeup basically that they are using to make him seem burned, and she's being silly, and you're just like, this is so playful and cute, and then it gets so weird later, and it's just this back and forth of them. Also, I think Sarah points this out many times, but them being young people who have no clue how, and also their society is so different and messed up, they have no insight into how they're supposed to figure out their feelings and express their feelings. And you have the historical context. In addition to all of that, you also have them not actually able, very rarely, to actually sit down and talk to each other. That's why that scene where Mao Mao finally says more than just like a couple words at a time to him is so impactful. But in this section, it seemed like they were finally almost working together consistently. And on top of all of that, I feel like he was starting to learn to respect her boundaries and acknowledge, like, I need to just, even with what happened where she got kidnapped, I think he was like, I really have to, that unfortunate situation he's placed in where it's like, he wants to drop everything and just go find her, but then he has to take care of things first as well. And she even says to him, if you're going to use what was the phrase? Maybe one of you has the exact wording, but something like, if you're going to use a poison, use it, or something like that. she's basically saying like, let me be your ally in this, which I think is very different from how she was before. But I'm curious, Christy, when you said it felt like before she would think like, I wish he would just go away. But then at the same time, it seemed like some of her actions were going against that. Do you think deep down it was, I wish my feelings for him would go away to some degree? Like she hated that she had any kind of interest in him whatsoever, even if those feelings, I'm not saying they were love at that point or anything, but do you think she was like, I wish this intrigue that is built around this character would go away? Do you think it was a little bit that, or do you think it was truly, I mean, at the very beginning, I think she truly wanted him to leave her alone, but what do you think later on?
I think a big part of that was also because she knew being in that kind of position could be potentially dangerous, and the way that things were developing, it could only go in a way where she can no longer extricate herself. I think that was a big part of it. But look where we are now.
So I have some other thoughts, but I want to make sure Sean and Sarah get a chance to chime in. So Sarah, what do you think about not just that scene, but their interactions in general within this section?
I think that their interactions, especially in the last volume that we read, is like some of my favorite stuff in like the whole series so far. I loved it. The fact that they had multiple moments where they could like actually just like be like and just like chill for a second. I really enjoyed that. Also it was either 11 or 12, Mao Mao was thinking about Jinshi, but the quote that she said is, just because you were a good person didn't mean good things happened to you, which is something that she has said about Loman like multiple times in the past. So like there's another kind of like parallel between Jinshi and Loman. And then just everything that she was kind of contemplating about like what she can give back to Jinshi, because Jinshi is like giving so much in terms of his feelings, and she feels like she can't like reciprocate that much and like doesn't kind of like deserve his feelings because she can't give those back. Also, I thought that was very like, for her to even admit that she had anything like at like in this relationship, I thought was like a huge step for her to even say that she couldn't give back as much, or was even concerned about giving back as much as he was giving her.
Oh yeah, and on that point too, where when she's saying how her feelings for Jinshi aren't a burning passion like he feels for her, but I think the more telling and more important part is how safe she feels with him.
Yes.
Because she doesn't she doesn't have that feeling with a lot of people, and I feel like that is even more important.
I agree. And that was especially true in volume 12, right? That was kind of the reason that she wanted that moment where she thinks about like just going back to her room, and then she's like, maybe I should go, and like he's so relieved. It's very sweet. Sean, what do you think?
A few things. You said room, which made me think of the quack doctor decorating her room and her slowly undecorating it, and I just think that's great. Okay, a lot of things have been said. I liked, probably because it's most recent in my brain, this last volume with the two moments. There's one right there. I liked that moment. And I liked the very last moment in like the crow's nest, or wherever they were on the ship. I did like that she said she thinks that she feels safe with him. It's very nice, very sweet. I was not as impacted by the Loman comparison. I kind of just was like, oh, that's nice, and I moved on. No offense to those who liked it more. I think I was also distracted by the slapping. It's like hard to have like a cute moment and then there's also slapping. I did like the scene where he's charging, he like is holding her hand but behind the screen. I thought that was cute.
Can I just make a comment about that scene?
Please do.
The thing that took me out of that scene is how would they know the word charging? Like, what do they charge? Like, I don't know. I was like,
It might be a translation thing. It might just mean like I need to
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know if they mean
Feel
like
your
charge.
presence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I was just like charging.
Charge.
I mean, this series uses a fair amount of modern language
Yeah.
in general.
That is true. That is true. But that was the one where I was like, I don't know, but I just thought it stuck in my mind far too long.
I think there was another charging scene
Yeah,
too,
I think
right?
it's the end
And
of
then
12. I think he
Yeah.
like touches her head while she's asleep, and he's like,
Yeah.
just
and
a
then
little bit.
there was like he had to charge for something, and then it turned out to be even more of an ordeal, and he's
Yes.
like, I should have gotten more charge.
So I liked the charging. I maintain this. I think I'm way more literal than I realize when I read. I don't know if I get into this Straussian subtext that's going on and more of the on my wherever L is on the screen. I don't know if I can psychoanalyze a character to that degree, because I think you said something like, was her not wanting to be around a Jinshi actually her not wanting to confront her feelings? I like the sound of that, but I don't know. It doesn't say that. So I don't know. So I liked these these last moments in volume 12 because I could concretely say in the text he has feelings for him. Finally.
Yes.
Finally. We have
And
Also-
she initiated physical contact.
Yes. So that's good for me. I can finally say there's something there without having to delve so deeply into the minds of these fictional characters that we can't actually know.
But I think really good, for me anyway, really good character development. It's not that you can't have overt or just straight up telling the reader the thoughts and feelings
Please
of characters.
tell me. I need to know.
But I do think that, especially with a character like Mao Mao, she's not going to, even though I know it's third person, she's not going to come out and basically tell you how she feels because she doesn't know how she feels. And I think that's more true to a lot of the human experience, is that we really have to sit and at times we think we feel one way, but then we're actually misplacing our feelings. We do this all the time when we're upset by something we heard or saw, and then we take it out on someone or something randomly. I think a good silly example is that a lot of people have road rage when they're really nice the rest of the time, because it's like the one time that they can just get angry, and you're like, are you that mad at this person who's driving slow, or are you mad at the state of the world, basically? And I think for her, what I like about her too is it matches the experiences she's had in her life and the lack of ability she feels in being able to express herself, and just her constant suppressing of her feelings anyway. So it's like, I think with her, there is a lot of, you don't have to, but I think if you want to try to analyze her character, it's difficult to just find passages that tell you, because you really are shown over the course of the story. It makes me want to kind of lean in, I'll say, and determine what I can of her and analyze, as you said, her character. I have to say, I was waiting, of course, obviously, for all of you to get to the Rikusen reveal and all of that, but I also have been dying because I knew all of you would like Lahan's brother, and I've just been dying for you guys to see that they left him behind. And I was like, I can't hint at this at all. It's the very end of the volume. But that
I knew
part,
something was going to happen when she was like, what was I here for again? Oh, well.
I love that they finally determine his name, and then they're like, and he was not on the ship. That was like nice.
As soon as they said that kid was on the ship and they didn't really know why, I was like, oh my god, no.
He's like, he was more surprised than anyone that his name was on the roster.
It's so sad.
That
he
picture.
Yes,
that
the
picture
like,
at the end with his face just like in the
clouds.
In the sky.
He is the unsung hero of this series.
I love him even more after, like, in that scene when they find out that kid's name, and then he's like, yeah, but, some people don't like it because I have the same name as them, and then Lahan's brother is just kind of like, but then the poor quack doctor, not knowing anything, is like, don't worry, no one here is gonna be like that. So then when he has to finally introduce himself, he's like, I'm Lahan's brother.
I also loved, speaking of the quack doctor, that picture where it was like there were sparkles and flowers behind Jinshi, and like the quack doctor's so taken aback and Jinshi looks so charming. That is one of my absolute favorite illustrations in any of these. And also the poor quack doctor is just so clueless all the time. But Christy, I want to make sure we get to a question that you had for the group, which is that what is your favorite running joke within the series besides just the Lahan's brother joke? So
May
Christy,
I go
do you
first?
Oh yes, please.
Okay. Jofu the duck, I think that's his name, is
Yay,
amazing.
Jofu.
And I like how Jofu kind of is intelligent, right? I mean, like it kind of expresses itself like Boston or Lahan's brother or whoever it's around. Like sometimes it looks like kind of like, sometimes it's angry. Jofu is a great little duck. And it is funny, like how many times it's brought up that like Boston is like standing guard and like the duck is right beside him, like looking, and then it's like Jinshi is like, we really do have to do something about that, but never get around to it.
Go ahead.
She is intelligent, and she's a literal wingman for Boston.
We didn't talk about Boston and the duck and Lishu at all, but that was kind of cute and very them. It's very them. Sean stole mine. I was gonna say the way that Jofu is basically a human in the way that they talk about it and stuff, but I also really like I think they make this joke multiple times, or at least Mao Mao thinks it's something like when they have like the goats and the duck and there's like some other animal around, she's like, we might as well just have a farm. Like just her being amused at all that. And then doesn't Chue always joke about cooking the duck or something? And Boston's like, no. And there's that illustration of him like blocking her and Jofu's on his back. It's great. Yes, Jofu the duck is one of my favorites. I know this isn't a running joke, it was just a funny moment, and it's another illustration. And it was already funny in the wording, and then the illustration made it that much better. Liaku, who got to shine in this arc, when he's just doing pull-ups in the corner on a stupid pillar, and Chue is like laying down, and Mao Mao is doing something Mao Mao-esque. But Liaku was great in this. I love that Liaku found Tianyu annoying. I like that Liaku was just kind of pals with the quack doctor, but also was like, I don't think this guy knows what he's doing really. And he's just helping Mao Mao out. He was just the best in general, I feel like, because I think all of us have loved Liaku. This is the most that we've actually got Liaku just around being a bodyguard. And he's the best. I love him so much. Anyway, though.
It shows him being also surprisingly astute, too. He's not just a himbo.
Yeah, a himbo with a brain. Christy, since it was your prompt, what would you say besides the Lahan's brother thing was one of your favorite jokes that kind of kept coming up?
I think, yeah, so I have two, but one of my favorites is definitely the whole Barrio thing where he has to only talk to people through a curtain or a screen. And the basket was just ridiculous. It's like how does he even like fit in a basket? And Chue is like strong enough to carry him. And then there was another scene where he's talking to Jinshi through the screen or through the curtain, and Jinshi gave the curtain a cold look. and then I think I don't remember which scene it was, but it was when Mama brought Chue back, and then she runs into Barrio, and they see each other face to face, and they're both like, oh.
What about for you, Sarah?
I have two also. One of them is kind of like across the previous arcs as well, and it's not a good thing, but I think it's funny how Mao Mao just wants to hit kids.
Sean has a quote. Can you find it, Sean, about that stupid kid? That kid in this, I find Tianyu so annoying, but that kid, oh
Yes.
my gosh, did I find that kid
Did I
so
take a picture
annoying.
of that? Let's see.
I think you did. You read it to me the other day. Sorry to interrupt, but I know Sean had this quote about wanting to like give him the wrath of the fist or something really dramatic.
Yes.
I don't know if I took a picture of it, but I will say in looking for it, we already talked about Rikusen, but I did like from Jinshi's perspective, it said the root of all evil. No, wait, his name was Rikusen, showed up at Jinshi's office.
Yes.
He's got to think of a way to punish him.
But yeah, she
So-
does like to hit the annoying kids. She likes
Yep,
to just drop a
bonks them.
knuckle on their head.
He's just saying what we're all thinking.
I like also how much she really likes that little girl, where she's like,
Same.
she is really cute.
She's like, if all kids were like this,
Yeah.
kids would be great.
And then
the
you had a
other-
second one.
Yes, it was just the potatoes and the random things that they would say about them. So two of the things that I had like noted down were sadly she didn't have time for Lahan's brother saga of wheat and potatoes, which was so funny. And then also they built a veritable potato palace. It's just like just all the different things they had to say about potatoes was so funny.
And speaking of,
And I learned
Lahan's
stuff
brother-
about potatoes.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I didn't know all these dangerous potato skins, man. I was like, whoa, watch out.
I
for green
mean,
potatoes.
when I peel potatoes and stuff, I always, it's like, oh, you got to remove the eyes. But I didn't realize, like, it's because they're actually poisonous.
Yeah.
Like, actually. And speaking of Lahan's brother and potatoes, yeah, another one of my favorite running gags is like whenever he says something about farming, and Mama was like, "Wow, this guy really is a pro," but she didn't say it out loud. How considerate of her!
Yes.
Really quick, I know I'm backtracking just a second, but since Sean mentioned the root of all evil thing, I really liked this illustration of Jinshi because I think Rikusen's behind him and he's just like, no, because he was really wanting to go home. So that part reminded me of that a little bit. And then I have this stupid kid pulling her hair. I can't stand that kid. He's such a brat. Ugh. And it's like, it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy because he's a brat, then the dad likes, or the one guy likes the little girl more because she's sweet and nice, and then he's like, you like her more than me, and then he acts out and you're like, well, yeah, because you're awful. And I'm assuming, Sarah, the part that made you squeamish was when they did the operation and got the hair out.
Yes, that's gross.
Can you imagine? It's already bad enough when it's in drains.
Yes. As someone who recently cleared out my shower drain after not doing it for a long time, and I have a lot of hair that ends up in there. It was disgusting, and it's my own hair. Having to fish it out of someone's intestines is really not my idea of a good time.
No, yeah, that was very gross. I really liked that little girl. I like how everyone liked that little girl too. Yeah. Anyway, were there any other, it doesn't have to be a running joke, it can just be a funny moment. Were there any other funny moments? Yes, Sean, please.
So many funny moments.
Big fan of the minor war between Mao Mao and the gardener in the greenhouse.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, actually, I did have something about smacking the little kid. I'll read that in a second too. Let's see. I have to read about the greenhouse. Where'd it go? Well, first off, I liked when Jinshi's moving into the main house and she wants to stay in the annex, and then he's like, "Well, there's a greenhouse there." And it says, "They said that if I moved the main house, I could use the greenhouse to cultivate herbs." Jinshi glanced at Mao Mao, then grinned openly. "But I gather you'd be just as happy to stay in the annex, Mao Mao." "Whatever do you mean, Master Jinshi? Never fear, I would certainly follow you to the main house." She pounded her chest for emphasis so hard that she broke down coughing. Let's see.
You had another one with her with the non-committal responses.
Yeah. So I really liked this because it's hilarious. In the end, it was decided that Mao Mao would use only 1/3 of the greenhouse. The soon-to-be out-of-season cucumbers would go to her, however. With many an aggrieved look at Mao Mao, the gardener, on the edge of tears, set about making an authorized personnel only sign to keep her out of his succulents.
That reminds me of when Mama made the soup for Jinshi, and then she was like worried the quack doctor was gonna have some, and she's like, "Oh, she should have made a sign that said imperial use only."
Yeah. It says when she's taking the cucumbers, it says the gardener looked at Mao Mao as if she had killed his parents. She paid him no mind. Anyways, her smacking. I don't know if this is this one you're thinking of, but it says Mao Mao had no choice but let her fist relax. She was just as glad the servant had made a prompt exit. Child or not, she really had been about to smack him one. No mercy for kids who went around whacking people with swords. That's when he hits the quack doctor.
What do you have the one of the non-committal responses though?
I sure do.
Okay.
She would listen politely about the inheritance, offer a few non-committal comments, and gracefully make her exit when the moment was right. Hold on, you're just making non-committal comments to get out talking about this, aren't you? Perish the thought, sir.
It's like that reminded me of when Jinshi was like, "You were sleeping," and she's like, "I have no clue what you mean," because she has like and he's like, "You have a mark on your face," and she's like, "You're mistaken," or whatever she says.
There's also a part where she was eating, and she's like, he was talking about something, and she said, "Of course, sir." Mama studiously kept any emotion out of her voice. Jinshi responded by tugging her cheeks. "I mean, most brazen, sir." Tugging her cheeks.
Oh, one of my favorite moments is when Mama was like, "Medicine, I need to see medicine." And then was it Basen? I don't remember who it was who had the note from Sweden that is like, "If Mama enters this kind of state, open this package and just show it to her." And then she instantly revitalizes.
It's so out of nowhere. Just like all of a sudden, she's basically paralyzed, can't operate. It's and I think it's,
but make sure you do not give it to her yet.
I think it's funny that she finds Lacan so weird and she really dislikes him, and I think Jinshi notes multiple times like they're actually really similar in a lot of ways, but I'm never gonna tell her that. And I feel like that's that moment of just her completely derailing and not being able to function in that moment. You're like, yeah, you're your own kind of character, of course.
Definitely
Were there
part of the
other?
Law Clan.
I have one more. Mao Mao scowls at Jinshi, and then it says his face lit up, and it said like as if it said, "That's the stuff." Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Sorry, I have other moments. Okay, first of all, Lacan randomly climbing the ship mast, so weird. And the clinging to the post and be like, "No, I don't wanna." He's such a man child, but I don't know why it works for me when it's
that was the exact wording I wanted to say. It works for you, but I was like, don't interrupt.
But only when it's him. Okay, Lahan, when they're describing Lahan as Lahan's brother's brother. And then when Chue gives Mama a stack of paper, and then she's like, this paper's of decently sized necessity. And then Mama's like, "Can you not call it decently sized?"
That is a running joke because that comes up throughout the series.
And then one more is when Mama was like all stinky at the end, but she's like, "Hold on, he just took a whiff."
Yes, that part is that part's great for many reasons, but I definitely think that that's one of them. Sarah, you said you also had more?
Yeah, so someone calls her Lahan's little sister, and it says, "I'm sorry, what did you call me, Mama?" Mama looked like she was ready to spit in his face. Oh my god. Oh, there's also just people talking about Lahan's brother. When he he takes off his shirt for some reason, and Lahaku says, "She's right, you're built."
He's such a bro.
And then there was also like the aunties in that village talking about him.
Oh yeah, I love that.
He only stayed for a few days, but he was such a hard worker. If I were 10 years younger, I'd have proposed to him like that.
And Mama's like, "I gotta tell him he's popular with the ladies."
I love how much everyone loves Lahan's brother. It's great.
Sorry, one more thing.
Yes,
is,
I was gonna say.
In the 9th, because we learned about the Quack Doctor's name earlier, but then they say his name again in the 9th book, and then Mama was like, "Oh, he had a name," and I'm like, "Wait, what? I thought we already knew his name." And then later on, someone says his name again, and she's like, "Oh, he had a name." So that was like another running gag of her just constantly forgetting his name.
I
Poor
also like
Quack.
that people just start calling him the Quack or the Quack Doctor to his face, and he's like, yeah,
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything about it, doesn't correct them.
he's
I think
so
Chue is just like,
sweet.
oh, hello, the Quack, and he's just like, hello.
I wanted to know, now that we've kind of had a lot of fun moments, this isn't sad, it's just a thought that I had when I earlier said I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to hear some of your feelings about things. So one thing I really like about this series, and this is something I think Christy and Sarah and myself can probably speak to a little bit more than you, Sean, but obviously feel free to chime in. I think the current landscape of, especially in fantasy stories, which obviously this is not, but there is, I think, some overlap between fans of fantasy and also anime. So I do think that with this story, it's so different from what we typically see with a lot of fantasy romance or with romances or romance tropes that are popular right now. And part of what I like about the development about Jinchi and Mama's relationship is, first off, I still am like, I don't know if they'll end up together. You know, like they have that dynamic where you're like, I just Sean, where it's kind of unclear.
Don't you dare say that.
I like it. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sean. But I do think that there is something to the way that being able to still live for yourself and as your own person is actually incorporated into their relationship, because I think a lot of love stories and tropes right now put such an emphasis on love conquers all, and like the other person completes you, they're your missing piece, you need them, that kind of stuff. And I think with Mao Mao, with the whole dynamic of he reminds her of her father and she doesn't know if she can deal with that, I think that's a very realistic portrayal. And also it's something you never see, which is a person considering their own place in the relationship. Like, I don't know, because if she were to be in a relationship with him in the state that he's in right now, where he is constantly sacrificing all the time, I think there's a part of her that recognizes, I don't know that I could handle that. I think that would take all of what I like. She would have to commit to always being there for him, so much so that she would lose, I think, herself. And I think Mama has always had a very pragmatic view of, she recognizes that she is within a society that has restrictions on her. She doesn't have ultimate freedom. And I don't think she's trying to have ultimate freedom. I think she just wants to hold to what she does have and be able to pursue the things that make her happy. And I think there is this acknowledgement that if she were to be with Jinchi right now, especially with the position he's in, that it would require her to give up a lot of the very little she has currently. So I like that you actually see a character considering in some capacity themselves and how they would show up in a relationship, instead of just being like, he loves me, well, I love him too. And for him, I think I think it's nice to see that, because it is a historical fiction setting and there is a power dynamic between them. And that is something that I don't think gets tackled well in a lot of historical stories. But with him in particular, he, I think, is trying to, I guess you could say, even the playing field. Like, he's trying to do everything he can to ensure that she does still have that, because he has so much more, even though he is restricted in his own way in a lot of obviously other areas, politically especially. I think he does make an effort to do what he can to show up for her and show her, I'm going to do what I can so that you can still have what you like in your life. Which is why the end of 8, though, was so, I don't want to say controversial, because especially that's not the right word in comparison to things like the end of 5. But 8, where it's like, it almost comes across like he's emotionally manipulating, but I also think he's trying to do what he can to show her, I'm doing this not just for you, I'm doing it for myself too, because I also can't handle this forever. Anyway, the point, to summarize, is just that it's nice to see characters that consider their own lives not just how they can fit with this other character. And I think that's why a lot of love stories end up feeling shallow or don't hit quite in the same way. So I'm just curious. Like I said, Christy and Sarah are a little bit more also in the know about fantasy romance tropes and stuff. But Sean, you've obviously heard a lot. Just tangentially, you have this awareness of it too. So if any of you wanted to chime in or add to any of that, I'm curious your thoughts.
I think that I agree with all that. Like I think it's really refreshing to like actually see characters like contemplate this. And I also think having them, especially Mao Mao, kind of like consider Jinxi's position like in the like royalty basically. I think that is something in other kind of like fantasy romance things that doesn't really get considered very well or isn't like handled well, because it, at least to me, it just feels like those things kind of just like are like a nothing problem in the end, whereas like this is like we actually do need to find a solution to this, and like how we're actually going to handle it going forward. We can't just say like, oh, we're in love and that's enough to like overcome the social aspect of it as well. So it's just really refreshing to like see that be given consideration.
Right. That's why I still, sorry, Sean. That's why I am at that feeling of like, are they gonna end up together? I know. I'm sorry, Sean. Just say it again. Sean is actually a romantic at heart. He loves a cute love story. So
I don't deny this.
yeah. What do you think though, Christy, about all of that?
No, I definitely agree. I also have the same kind of problem with a lot of fantasy books, not just fantasy romance, because you kind of see it in regular fantasy, like subplots in regular fantasy too, where it's like the power imbalance between characters and, you know, what are they going to do about it? But it's like, oh, you know, love conquers all, or the other person is able to kind of get over that hurdle so easily. Just, you know, throw everything away and everything is kind of they're magically fixed and they can be together. I really like how in Apothecary Diaries, it really shows the actual impact of everything and how it's not so easy for him to just cast aside his role, because there's so many other factors that go into it too. Like, you know, he has to he actually fears for his life, and how this will impact like the succession and all these other factors. And one thing I also especially love about the relationship in Apothecary Diaries is, for me, when it comes to romances, I have to be like super invested in the characters themselves, and I feel like I don't get a lot of that in not just like in romance and fantasy romance a lot of times, because it's usually the main female character has a lot of character development, but the love interest only exists to be a love interest. But in this one, you see each of the characters be their own person, and that's why I root for them as individuals. That's what makes me root for their relationship even more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, just to add on to what you were saying about in a lot of other instances, the power dynamic isn't really tackled. It's the love conquers all kind of thing. There is also just this leaning into, oh, isn't it great to just like marry into royalty and be rich now? There's that. Or there is if the male character is the one that has the position of power, it's just like, it's actually kind of hot. And you're just like, you know, I wish we would more thoughtfully dive into the impacts of these sorts of dynamics, especially because in a lot of fantasy, I know, again, we keep talking about fantasy and this is historical fiction, but it's true for historical fiction and fantasy, because fantasy is oftentimes, at the very least, it is cosplaying as a historical period in our own world. We'll say that I don't know why these dynamics aren't more often showcased and tackled, and the actual intricacies of how difficult it is to find compatibility and also feel like you are showing up as equals within the relationship, how difficult it is to do that when you do not hold equal power in the rest of society, and one person even has more power over you in a very, very obvious way. And also I think I don't think Jinshi wants to force Mao Mao to, be his wife. I don't think he wants that at all, even though he very easily could, which is, I think, speaks to something in him, and also seeing the way that other women have been treated. And I think that he's a character, it's like he doesn't want to marry Mao Mao so that she can maybe someday be his partner or maybe someday love him. I think he genuinely wants her to choose to be with him because that's how she feels. And I think it was difficult for him at first to navigate that because he doesn't have anybody to model that for him. There is nothing demonstrating that. So he doesn't know what that looks like even a little bit. So I think for him to take these steps to try to figure out what to do, and I especially think the way that the both of them are starting to communicate, I think, a little more directly to each other is a very good sign, on top of, as Sean pointed out, some of the cuter moments that we get finally here in these volumes. But Sean, what are your thoughts about all of that?
I'm mostly just listening and learning, but to that last point about Jinshi. Well, I guess, like, I think it's conceivable that as soon as he revealed himself to be who he was, he could just, like, take a concubine, right? Like, Mao Mao, you are my
And it's being
concubine.
pushed on him.
Yeah. And, like, or, like, a bunch, right? I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, he has that kind of power and he has not. So, yeah, I think there's something to wanting to be chosen by her rather than, forcing it. So,
well, and also the kind of tragedy of, if he probably would have loved to have never revealed who he actually was, but he sacrificed that anonymity to save her. And also I think there's other people that he cared about saving in the at the She clan, I think is the clan's name. So it's like, in order to save her, he also might have been doing the very thing that would drive a wedge between them in a lot of ways. And also it would be a big sacrifice for the life that he wanted for himself. So there was that dynamic, and that's kind of been a continuous thing between them, is finding that, where do you sacrifice, and when your sacrifices for the other person are at the detriment of yourself. And then also, I think the thing that the two of them have in common is neither of them really ever wants to choose each other over the well-being of the population. And I think that's another reason I root for them, because that is such an exhausting trope of, let the world burn, I just love you so much. And you're like, well, I don't care about the two of you at all anymore then, because especially when people hold a certain level of power and they're going to throw that away instead of doing what they can to help a lot of people just because they love one person. And it's a callousness, I think, at the end of the day. I understand having to come to terms with difficult choices. That's a different scenario. But you get these characters that are like, I don't even care. Let the world burn for all I care. I don't care. That whole thing. And you're just like, okay, I hate this. And I think that that's a tough dynamic for the both of them. But Sean, did you have more to add? No. Okay. What other things? Was there anything else that anybody wanted to chime in with? I know, Sarah, you were talking about maybe having certain theories or predictions about things that have happened, but I usually like to kind of end on those things. So is there anything else anyone wanted to mention?
Say one thing?
Yes, please.
And maybe I can get some clarification. 12 was kind of confusing.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know why this person who ended up being a somewhat notable figure from this other country came into the Western capital area. And I don't know why the people pursuing him at some point, they're like, oh, they're fine, just give him back to them. And then they left. And I was like, okay, like what was any of that? Like, I don't really know. I didn't really follow that. And we haven't gone into any of the succession stuff, but Hulon, the youngest brother, wanted to I think, uplift the second oldest brother and kind of almost reign together from behind the scenes. Oldest brother didn't want it, but had the charisma of their father. And what I don't quite understand is Hulan, I think, shoots him with a blow dart, right? A poison dart. But then is like tells the little girl to go get Mao Mao. And he's been like testing Mao Mao, making sure her authority of poisons is good enough. And then so it's like, why did you shoot him only to have her like my guess is I don't want to kill my brother, but I need him out of the picture. Is kind of what I thought it was for me to uplift second brother. But anyways, all of that I was like, I'm glad it's funny because a lot of this I'm just like, I'm not getting it because it was kind of a lot. So there you go. I don't know if any of that made sense.
That was actually going to be like one of my questions too. Like why? Okay, so what I understand is that Hulan shot Shikyo, his brother, and then he told the little girl Xiaohong about the secret passage. What he didn't know that Xiaohong was going to get Mao Mao. That's the thing. So,
Okay.
but I'm like, well, why would he tell her that her uncle is in danger? Like, why would he risk someone finding
and
him
like
and
Mao
saving
Mao
him?
Mao Mao does bring up to him like, you were just testing me, which then I thought, that's why I was wondering, did he know the little girl would get Mao Mao? I don't know. I was very thrown by that whole I was like, what is going on?
I was also confused by that. And when they kept having to like, they're like, oh, we need to get Mao Mao out of here. I was like, for what
why?
though?
Yeah. Why though?
And
Why did he, like, and that's the other thing, like kidnapping plots are not my favorite. That's just a Sean staple. They kind of drive me crazy. And I was like, okay, I get like maybe in this situation it sounds like she's being kidnapped for a good reason, because obviously you learn that Chue is like kind of around. But I was like, man, are we doing this again? I hope this resolves like quickly because I really don't want to do like another Mao Mao rescue mission thing. And I agree, it was not clear to me why. Like, I think it was like something with like, oh well, Mao Mao helped out that foreign dignitary and it might look bad somehow. And I was like, I don't follow the politics of this and how it looks bad. I don't know. It was kind of lost on me. So I don't know.
I very sadly don't have the details as fresh in my head because I read it months ago. So I don't know that I can
commit it to memory.
It's okay. When I eventually reread all of it, then I'll try to pay extra close attention to this. But this is one of those. It's like when you're trying to figure out family tree stuff in this series. It's I think sorry to once again reference the end of 4, but when you're like, okay, wait, so the emperor had a daughter, and then he asked the daughter to, and that's who's this person's mom, and there's that whole trying to piece together who's who, and then family members you think you have confirmation and then they're like, no, that's not my sister. And you're like, I think it is your sister though. So I think that this situation had a similar feeling, but we don't have the anime to help us have visuals to match the things. And we also don't know these people very well. Some of them have not really been around. So I think that made it extra difficult. But I unfortunately I don't remember the details well enough.
I'm gonna read the epilogue. I'm gonna, instead of saying the guy's name, I'm gonna say Big Brother. Instead of saying the little girl's name, I'm gonna say little girl for the sentence. Mao Mao had found herself fleeing all over the province because she treated Big Brother after he was shot with a poison dart. But it was little girl who had brought her to the injured man, and it was younger brother who had urged little girl on. It seems like he like knew. I'm really stuck on this. Like, I don't know why you did this. Why I don't understand it.
I think Sarah, maybe you mentioned this, that I think that the little brother wanted the big brother out of the picture. He didn't want him to die, so I think he wanted the little girl to go not realizing that Mao Mao would also go too. Because I don't think they originally planned on Mao Mao being in this, but then once she got there, they're like, well, we have to bring her along
Well,
now.
but then, yeah, I don't know. But then later he says, I'm looking on the next page. Later he says, but I never dreamed that she'd bring you of all people, Lady Mao Mao. I mean, he could be lying.
Also, he specifically states like, yeah, I was trying to kill my brother.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think he just wanted him out of the picture, like, oh, incapacitated. He wanted him actually dead, because it's like, as long as he's alive and he exists, there are going to be people who back him as the leader. So that's why I'm confused. Like, why did he try to save him?
Sorry, but one more thing. Again, a little further down, though, it says, all right, Master Hulan, tell me, could it be that you're testing me the entire time? And he said, testing is such an unpleasant word. I simply brought you along, wondering if you might be able to solve those problems. That includes the food poisoning at the distillery, she wanted to be sure. Hulan didn't answer, but only smiled. You're like, again, like, I'm like...
Also, I guess like, I want to chime in that I think, like you were just stating, Christy, he explicitly says, oh, well, like, I want him dead. Did he mean that he wanted the idea of that person to be dead? But then because that brother doesn't like to even live as a prince. He just likes to live as this, however he likes to live, hunter guy. And so was he like, oh, I want the prince to die so that people won't try? And that was their way of, oh, then the little girl can like confirm, again, sorry for the air quotes, but she can like confirm that he was shot or something or other. I don't know, but he is definitely a character that seems like he has his own plots up his sleeve. When he threw himself into the fire, I was like, geez, this guy is insane. I think it's a fair time to use that word to describe someone, because that was a crazy thing to do. But either way, yeah, I don't know if I would have to reread that volume to try to figure out for sure everybody's exact motivations.
Why can't you explain it to me?
If I'd read it before, I feel like I'd be better about this. I'm sorry. I was trying really hard to have there be not moments where my having read this forever ago shined through, and this is one of them. So apologies. Sean, was there something else that you wanted to bring up? Sean?
I don't think so.
That's
that
great...
just came to me, and I was like, man, I really missed out. I had to include it.
Yeah, Christy has to see what you have changed your name to. Was there... Sorry, you just said, and I already forgot. Was there something else, Sean, that you wanted to mention before we get into any potential theories?
No, I was just ranting about how I don't understand number 12. Also, I guess we could talk about this kind of odd world building. It's not that odd, but we have like kind of like this Christianity thing kind of introduced, like there's like these believers and non-believers in that little town. I was like, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, and Shui prays at that church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, we were talking about early in the conversation, the way it feels like so many things that have been laid out for us finally came to a head in this. And I think that the Shrine Maiden White Lady stuff, the biggest part of it was like, oh, they want to go to war with Shao. Like, you know what I mean? That kind of sort of got brought back in as well. Because I remember, I think all of us agreed that we all were like, was that it? When we got to the end of 8, when it came to the White Lady and Shrine Maiden, all that stuff. I think a lot of us were unsure if that was totally resolved. So maybe there will be pieces of everything that's transpired here that is like that as well. But I do think that the bigger world building, the way it trickles in, sometimes can be a little difficult to keep track of and know for sure how it's motivating everyone else. But yeah, I thought some of the new things that were introduced there were interesting for sure. So predictions, theories, I think that's it.
Can I say one more thing, actually?
Yes, please.
So we kind of touched on this already with like Mao Mao and Chue's friendship, but just thinking back through kind of like Mao Mao's different friendships that she's had throughout the series, where first it was Shaolin and Shisui, Which also I want to note that it took me a very long time to realize that when they were in that like bandit town, Mao Mao, like the fake name that she gives for the little girl is Shaolin, like, which I was like, oh, that's why that name sounds familiar, because that's her friend's name from years ago at this point, and that made me sad. But then also like her friendship, you kind of see uh with Yao and NN, she kind of is a little bit more open with the both of them than she was with Shaolin and Shisui. But then in this section with Chue, she is like so much more open with Chue than she has been with anybody else so far, especially in the scene where Chue is like dying. Mao Mao says to her, my life would be so much harder without you, Miss Chue, so this can't be the end. Whatever happens, you have to live. And Chue says, I think I might start to think you're in love with me or you love me. And Mao Mao's like, yes, I love you. So please stop talking. Like for Mao Mao to say I love you to someone, like even a friend, I was like, that feels huge to me.
My jaw
like,
dropped to the floor.
And like just like seeing how much she is like opened up to other people. And I think part of that is Chue and like their relationship together, but seeing how I guess each person that she has become friends with has kind of like moved that forward for her. I was just like, I love that. And I am like so excited to see how her relationship with Yao and NN evolves even more now that she is like has experienced all this once she gets back to the capital and is like reunited with them. So I just
what I'm hearing is that Mao Mao is the true Miss Chue #1 fan. I think that's
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm Mao Mao?
I completely agree with everything you were saying, and I do think too, you almost don't quite realize how much time has passed since they've been back. So the idea of now that they've returned, how is that going to impact how she is with the people that she already knew? And I can't obviously comment on any of that since I've read a little bit more. But yeah, I feel like this was such a big moment in so many ways for her. And you mentioned Chue, of course, but I even feel like how she talks to like Boston or how she talks to Liaku, there is this sort of comfort now with them. And I think part of why this section, besides just loving the politics of it all and being surprised by a lot of things, part of what I loved about this is we got some fantastic new side characters. But then our characters that we've known for a while, we were just settled in with them so comfortably. And I think similar to how Mao Mao seems to have this like comfort with them, it's like, oh, it feels like, it sounds so corny, but it's like they're our friends too. So it's dumb, but it's like all the running jokes are funny now because we know there's these callbacks and things like that. And I don't think in a way where it feels like it's cheap laughs or anything like that. It's just the different dynamics that different characters bring out, not just in each other, but with Mao Mao also. So, you're talking about Lahan's brother with Liaku and him being like, you're built, like that whole thing where you now are like, I need these characters to interact. And it's fun to watch other people have their own interactions, even if it's not just Mao Mao and her relationships with other people. But also it's just nice to see, I think this is a way to kind of encompass all of this. It's like a giant found family. And I really like that about all of them. Even stupid Tianyu, as annoying as we'll even add him in there. But was there more that anyone wanted to add to the idea of Mao Mao's relationships with other characters and just in general character relationships overall?
Well, based on one of the things. What, Kirsty?
I agree and support all of that.
That last little bit that you said, Elle, about different people interacting, that was also one of the things I really liked about this, is because you get to see, especially the way that Boston and Chue interact, I thought was hilarious. Just like I guess they're in-laws, but they're like sibling dynamic. And you even see Lacan and the Quack like having like tea together or something, which I was like, that's such random people to like know each other, but it makes sense because it's like obviously things are still happening when Mao Mao's not there. Like, so I just love the potential of all the different relationships.
I really like that they laundered why Mao Mao wasn't there through the quack. Like they're like, Lacan can tell if we're lying, but the quack is too dumb to know that we're lying to him. So he's like, oh yeah, she's just out getting medicine, you know, like when he's like, huh?
Lacan has basically a superpower.
Yes.
Just tell by the way people's sweat smells or something, and he knows all their intentions. I do like that dynamic. I think also too about why some of this worked is Mao Mao previously, I mean, obviously at the very beginning of the story, she's thrust into an environment where she doesn't really know anyone. But the Verdigris house and Loman are like not far off. So she's like a fish out of water, but she's still in her general environment. And it doesn't take too long before she starts to have her support system again in some capacity. Like the old lady, you know, there's not that many episodes in before she's able to have some agency again and have some communication with them. But I feel like this almost translates to characters going to college sort of feel. I know it's a goofy comparison, but sort of the idea of the character now is doing something in an environment that's very different. They don't have their parental figure around. They don't have like their siblings around. Siblings, you know, the women at the Verdigris house. They don't have any of those people, and they kind of have to find their place in the world and come out of their shell a little bit. And then it also helps reinforce the things that matter to them, what they're good at, and it allows them to look to the future a little bit more. And I think we kind of got that arc in Mao Mao as well. Christy, do you feel like there's something to any of that also? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I really like the way that things are developing with Mao Mao.
I know, I'm so excited. Okay, so I think we should finally segue to our predictions and potential theories for what comes next. I've only read a little bit more. So I feel like fairly clueless about a lot of things. But I think that previously we had what I would categorize as a big arc between 1 and 4 and kind of this in between, we'll call it middle book syndrome kind of arc between 5 and 8. And then we had this one that felt like not only its own arc, but it felt like everything before was leading up to it. So it feels like it's going to slow down a little bit for a while and then maybe build again, because that's the pattern that we've gotten before. So that's kind of my assessment here, but I have no idea. So that it's not really a specific theory, but that would be my prediction for what we're going to get in the near volumes, the near future volumes. Christy, what about for you?
Okay, I don't know. These are not necessarily theories, but just things that I think might be coming up. So we got the Western capital and we got Shao. And now it seems like Hokuaran and the, I don't know what they're called, the state country of Ri they're coming into play now. The world is definitely opening up a lot more. And like Sean said, that whole segment with the foreign dignitary and why they came here and why it's suddenly okay for them to be handed back, that was really weird. I wonder if that's going to play a bigger role coming up. Okay, this is the one theory that I am holding on to, and that I mentioned in our last chat too. Adwa, I'm like, I feel like something is gonna happen with her, because it feels like she's not doing it on purpose, but it's like, you know, she's kind of adopting all of these people into her villa, and these are kind of potentially really powerful allies. So I don't know if she's gonna see. I don't suspect her of anything, because I think Adwa is a great character and a great person. I don't think she's evil and she's gonna be scheming anything, but I feel like there's gonna be something involved with her, and I don't know. My prediction is that she's gonna ultimately end up as the Empress. That's my main prediction. Because also, well, I was gonna say Lady Yuki Gyokuyo, Empress Gyokuyo. One of the things, okay, see, I don't know if any of this is gonna go anywhere, right? But like one of the things that we had talked about before was how it didn't seem like she has affection for the emperor, but it seemed like she also wasn't there by like her own choice. She's kind of there to um, as a kind of a pawn for her family. And it seemed like if she had any other choice, she would. It felt like she had someone else that because she was sorry to be all over the place, but she expressed like jealousy over was it Lady Fuyo being able to marry the person that she wanted. Now I'm like, yo, does Gyokyo have something going on with Riku-san? Like, because they knew each other as kids, and then she's like communicating with him through the letters. I wonder if Riku-san is the person that she would want to be with.
So you just think in general that that little tidbit isn't over yet? Because that's introduced so early. I think that's episode 2 of the show and like one of the first chapters.
I haven't let it go.
Well, it was good for you to not let go that you felt like there was something going on with her in general, because there definitely was. We just didn't know exactly what it was. But, you know, I think it's fair to say that there are some hunches that are worth holding on to.
Those are my main theories.
Sean, I know you are not the theory predictions fella, but what do you think? Everyone's going to live happily ever after.
Yeah, I really like that theory just now, though, that Riku-san theory. I like that.
Keep it up in here.
I don't have any predictions. I just want Boston to find love. You know, he's my new project. I want that to
Him and Lee Shu?
What's that?
Him and Lee Shu?
Yeah, just live a simple country life with their ducks.
The ducks, yeah.
You know, give up the bodyguard business. I think that'd be wonderful.
See, I did kind of go on and on about the dynamic between Jinshi and Mao Mao and the way in which they actually contemplate their roles as individuals and then also as a couple. And I feel like Lee Shu did that also, and it was kind of like, good for you, Lee Shu. Like, she's finally starting to take her life into her own hands. And I like that none of the couples in the story feel like they have the same dynamics as other couples. Like, obviously, Chue and Baryu are very different from, you know, Mao Mao and Jinshi. And the Emperor and Lady Gyokyo are very different from other people. But then some of the other dynamics that you see within this, they don't feel the same, but also you kind of get why some people work with each other. Oh, Christy?
Gaoshun and Taomei?
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're so cute!
Are they?
I like that part where they're like happily walking together.
Yeah.
And then when they get seen, they like have to act like they aren't super in love with each other.
I have another prediction, but I just forgot. Oh, I think there's gonna be more Me Clan stuff. I feel like you don't introduce a secret agent clan and abandon it. Quick clarification: was Chue basically picking the weird guy who I can't figure out, the youngest brother, as her successor?
Yeah.
Disappointing. I wish she had chosen Mao Mao as her successor.
Doesn't she even think she wished she could choose a little girl?
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Mao Mao would want that, though. That feels very anti-Mao Mao. You want Mao Mao to become a secret agent? I think the girl who's into poisons might make for a bad secret agent.
Or the perfect secret agent.
Everyone's
already that would cause her to be involved in so much stuff, and she does not want to get involved.
Yeah.
I
think you just want like a side series of Mao Mao and Chue going on spy missions together.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Apothecary Diaries spy family collab.
Yes.
Crossover.
That would be so fun. There's somehow some kind of time machine that they go to their. That would be great. I think.
What
if
Spy Family is actually in the future of Apothecary Diaries?
Never know.
We'll have to pay attention to that. I was gonna say, do we think Mama would like Anya?
Oh my god.
Her and Lloyd together would be like, and then Chue and Yor can be friends, and she can hate Yuri.
Boston and Yor, because they both have like super strength.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be super funny. The two of them playing a sport together, playing tennis. They're just both breaking it constantly. That'd be great. Well, I think when we start talking about crossovers, I think that means we've kind of gotten through a lot of what we wanted to talk about. Was there anything else that we wanted to mention? Was there anything from last time before I stupidly broke my toe that we wanted to mention?
I have a
or
theory.
You have a theory?
Yes, I have a theory. So in Boston's Duck Village, there is a woman, and she says, "I left the profane world more than 20 years ago now, so I have no idea who or what leaf you might be." And I was like, okay, that's interesting of her to say. And then Boston found himself wondering who this woman was and why she had come to Red Plum Village, but he didn't ask. He could only assume that she too had a story of her own. And for them to like kind of put that in there twice, that like, oh, she has like a backstory kind of thing. I was like, I think this lady's gonna show up again. I don't know how or where or what she's related to, but I think she's gonna show up. At first,
go ahead.
At first I thought she might have been related to the Yi clan, but then I was like, that was 17 years ago, and she was saying that this was more than 20, so I was like, I don't think that's actually related, and it seems like we've kind of resolved the Yi clan stuff, so I don't think she's related to that, but I don't know.
I was gonna say, speaking of characters that showed up and we're like, what have we done with them? This guy? I feel like this guy's got to do something, right?
Yeah.
Is that the other doctor?
Yeah, the one that has all the scars, and he's really eccentric.
The dumbass.
Yeah.
That's Mama calls
And he's
him.
got a U name.
The one that he doesn't Mamo like, what the heck, when he tries to test in and he like dresses as a lady.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like sitting at lunch and he doesn't think that it's like, yeah.
Ooh, I have another theory or conspiracy theory or whatever. Tianyu, the guy, I'm suspicious of him because he reads to me like a sociopath. And
to them
like
too, I think.
Yeah. And to me, he feels like the kind of person like, oh, you know, he'll only do things that interest him. He'll do whatever he wants as long as it's interesting to him. He would be like, I don't know, like I feel like he could become a potential enemy because he gets involved in something that he's like, ooh, this seems fun. I don't know.
What do we think is going to happen with Yao's goal of being like a lady physician?
I hope she becomes one.
What's that?
I hope she becomes one.
Oh, yeah, the fact that her uncle is part of the Mi clan, that was out of nowhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that they have connections.
Yao is a Mi clan. Although I guess Chue was his successor. Yeah. Can you have more than one? Do you have to pick one? I don't know how to work.
Oh, sorry. And then another thing was in volume 9. Sorry, I don't have it pulled up. It was just like randomly popped into my memory. But in volume 9, when what's his name? Lahan's brother was talking to Yao and Engen, and it was they were talking about the whole physician dissection thing, and then he mentioned something about like, oh, people who don't follow their own path aren't beautiful or something like that. And then he was kind of, you know, he was talking to both of them, but it seems like he was talking more to Engen, and I feel like their dynamic might change now because it seemed like Engen was contemplating some things, you know, like how she's so devoted to Yao, but maybe there will be some separation there. Engen is an interesting character.
Do you think Lahan's brother is just going to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere and never make his return?
Yo, speaking of, when he came back from the villages and he was like all like scruffy and his hair was long, he had a beard, I was like, he looks good like that.
Well, on that note, I feel like ending on Lahan's brother is kind of a good placing, as that's kind of where volume 12 ended off. Obviously, I have been waiting to talk about these volumes with all of you, so I'm so excited that you finally got to them. I'm really excited for when we eventually get to chat for the next ones. We, I think, don't have volume 16 until June, maybe. I don't even know if that's true, for the translation. So at the very least, though, it's going to be a while before we're able to get through the next 4. But I am begging you all to at least read 13 because it's really short and there's a part I want to talk about.
I'll forget.
No, you will not forget the thing that I want to talk about. I promise you. I promise you, you will not. No, you will not. I'm telling you, you will not forget the thing I want to talk about, okay? And also, especially you, Sean, especially you. You will not forget this particular thing because of things that stick in your head.
Does Mau Mau play the trombone?
She can sing jazz. Mau Mau creates jazz music.
Yeah.
That'd be quite the turn of events.
I love how they're just like characters are just inventing things.
Oh, a part that Sean did not mention that is really funny is when they're all like debating if Jinshi could get shot by a crossbow or a gun, or like they're all very casually like, no, that wouldn't go far enough. And they're like, I think it would. And they're just casually talking about him being assassinated.
Well, also they're talking about a Feifa, and I think it's Lihaku who says, yeah, like a Feifa could be like a really big thing one day. And I was like, okay, just predicting the future of like guns, like.
And the quack is like, hey, there's like 3 F's. He's like, oh.
I love how the quack doctor, he was like such a nobody in the beginning, and now he's everywhere. He's in like every single volume.
If I'm not mistaken, hasn't the creator said that he's her favorite character?
Oh yeah.
I think that might.
Quack doctor is me clan. Think about it.
Just
Think about
pretending
it,
to be incompetent.
Yeah. He's close to all the action. How is he so close to all the action all the time? Huh?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I love how they describe him. The good doctor was in fact not very good at doctoring.
Yeah. Well, friends, thanks so much for this chat. And, I think we all have Christy to thank for getting us into Apothecary Diaries in the first place. Thank you so much. And we will continue to debate who is Miss Chui's #1 fan and also what we think is going to happen. And I will continue to harass all of you to keep reading. And then at some point we'll have season 3. So that'll be our next Apothecary Diaries fix, I think. But thanks so much to all of you. For anybody that watches this, thanks for joining, and we'll see you later. Bye.